So today I got a little bit of a problem. You see, my work vehicle, which is a 2010 Dodge Caliper, it's a nice vehicle, it's got about 52,000 miles on it. I was driving it the other day, loaded up with transmissions, and once I took the transmissions out, I noticed the back end of the car was going like this. Anytime I hit a bump, all over the place. So I realized from years of loading the car up with transmissions, I probably blew out both the passenger side and driver side rear strut assemblies. So just like when you go on YouTube, looking at my videos, I went on YouTube to look for some strut replacement videos and I couldn't find anything. So today I'm going to do a little car repair video on doing the rear struts on this car. Unfortunately, I don't have a lift like some of the other fancy guys on YouTube, and I'm going to have to do it outside with a pair of jack stands and a floor jack. It's not my usual video, but for some people out there that may want to learn how to do struts on a Dodge Caliper, this may be the video to watch. So this is my car. I got to change the struts. So I'm going to back the car around. It's very windy today, so I may have to do some voiceovers. We want to put jacks on these pinch welds right over here. Now the reason we're doing both sides of the car is because we're going to remove the links for the stabilizer bar. And when you want to remove the links for the stabilizer bar, you don't want the bar twisted, having one side down and one side up. You want the bar to be free and unloaded. So I'm going to also change the links of the stabilizer bar because I'm looking underneath it. They look a little fishy, a little worn out. So I'm going to put some better bushings and links in for the stabilizer as well. Let's get to this. I'm going to start on the passenger side of the car. So we're going to remove this tire. All right, so with the wheel off, let's go take a look and see what we have here. You can see the upper part of the strut is actually fastened inside of the vehicle. So we're going to have to take some inside panels out. And basically it's got one bolt down here that holds the strut in place. There are the stabilizer link bushings we're going to change. And that'll again free up this arm. From the looks of it, what I'm going to have to do is take this off, remove the strut, and remove that bolt on the back over there, holding the arm so I can drop the whole thing down out of the way, put everything back in, put the arm back, put the stabilizer link back in, and then refasten the strut on the top. So because the strut assembly is actually fastened inside of the vehicle, I'm going to have to remove some of the interior panels. So this passenger side cargo panel is going to have to come out in order to access the two studs that hold the strut in place. And the little fastener over here that holds the cargo net, we're going to have to remove that bolt in here. So once you take this bolt off, you're going to be able to pull this whole panel right out. And I've got enough room here because I've cleaned the whole back of this out of the way, so I should be able to fish this panel out now. So you're probably wondering what these little access plugs are. And what they are is simply an area that you can actually grab onto the panel and pull it out. So you want to pry it out. This is going to allow you to actually pull the panel. Give you some leverage to pull the panel out, okay? The panel snaps in place around this bead over here and actually fits inside this little area over here. So in order for you to pull that panel out, you're going to have to actually lift it up over this and then pull the panel out that way. You have this rear surround in the back. This just pulls straight out. Very simple. Now with our rear surround out, we should be able to pull this whole panel right out. So what I've done is I released that panel from the door sill. I'm actually going to slide it right out. Get the belts over it. Take the panel out. You're going to notice here are the two studs and nuts that hold the upper part of the strut in place, right here. So a few things I want to point out on the bottom of this vehicle. You have this little brace over here, and that kind of goes right in front of where the bolt is for the lower control arm. So I want to remove this brace so I have a lot more room to work a wrench in here and a socket. This kind of gets in the way. You don't have to remove it, but I'm finding that this appears that it's going to be in the way over here. Try to get at this little piece over here. And this portion of the control arm, you can see the bottom sway bar link bushing and the top of it over here. Right over here. We're going to remove these on both sides, change these bushings while I'm at it, and simply pull the strut out and drop the arm down. This is a 15mm hex. You can take these off because the strut is basically still compressing itself against the body of the car, so there's no load on these. These are 13mm on both the top and the bottom of the links for the sway bar. These come out pretty easy. If you notice, I put some penetrating oil on all the hardware that I had to remove. I'm going to remove that support bracket because it seems to get in the way of the bolt, as I mentioned before. Use your jack and just support the arm a little bit to take a little load off of it. That's all you're doing, just a little load. Since the strut is still contained within itself, it's still got a load on the arm. Now you could wrestle it, you could try to get it out, but it's really not worth it. It's easier just to take this one bolt out, take the arm and drop it down, and release the load on the strut. Now, although I build a lot of transmissions every day, a lot of people don't realize I worked as an auto mechanic for Cadillac service area for years in my teens. Did a lot of suspension work, a lot of engine building, and originally my shop, I rebuilt everything. Engines, transmissions, axle ratios, automatics, standards. These bolts will kind of walk out themselves. All the control arm bolts are 18mm. So as you can see, I punched that through, and I'm going to let the pressure off of this now. Let it hang down. So you can see how the link bar is kind of rusty. And they use this kind of expansion rubber bushing spacer that's going to be stuck. So use a pair of vice grips to get on the spacer. And put your wrench up on the top to kind of work the rubber loose from the corrosion. Once you kind of get it started, you can get a hammer underneath there and bang it through. Years ago when I used to change these, they were so rusted they would break, and it would save you the trouble of having to do all this nonsense. So you can see how they corrode. I'm replacing the strut bar link bushings with Mevtech part number MK5342. They're a urethane bushing kit made in the USA. The KYB Strut Plus assembly is SR4218. It's a spring and strut assembly. You need 2 of them for both the passenger and the driver's side rear. It's going to go like this. One here, one on the other piece. Washer, spacer, washer. Other rubber piece, like that. Let's look at this old piece. It's a little rusty. Bushings are really wasted on it, kind of all deformed. This is typical wear. It's not bad. The bushings aren't dried out or anything. But since I'm in there, these, by the way, are only $8 each, so it's well worth changing. So here's our new KYB Strut Plus assembly, and you can see it comes with some new hardware, but it doesn't come with a little cover that's on this old one. So we just got to take this old cover off here and replace it on this one. So it's nice and cool. By the way, if you look at the top of the strut, it's got a point to it on one side and a curve on the other side. So this portion of the strut, if you look at it, it's got a little bit of a point that faces towards the wheel. So now that the strut is kind of caught from the top, I can catch the lower strut bolt. So you can see I caught the strut bolt. I have it held up with a jack in place. I've actually got these 2 bolts caught in the inside. I've got the pointy portion facing towards the outside of the car. I'm going to just kind of hook everything up, catch all the bolts first before I tighten everything down. Alright, so now that I use the control arm to help me get the strut caught up on the top, I'm going to take the bolt out of the control arm. Then I'm going to pry the control arm pivot bolt back in place. So I've got the lower control arm bolt fastened to the frame. Now I'm going to put the lower bolt back in for the strut. So now I've got the strut dangling. Let's take a simple punch, get in there and align the bottom of the strut bushing with the control arm. You just got to apply downward pressure and catch it like this. I'm going to pry up, take the bolt and put it back in on the other side. Okay, so now we can tighten both the lower strut bolt and the control arm bolt to the main frame. You can torque these bolts down to 45 to 50 foot-pounds. to install the sway bar links. It's quite easy to do. See, washer, bushing, sway bar, bushing, washer, spacer, another washer, bushing, pop it in the hole, put the bushing, take my gloves off for this. And the washer and the nut. Do the same thing like this to the other side. It's no big deal. Now we're just going to put in that brace that was over here before. I torqued these down to 18 foot-pounds. So you can see by the way that each panel only has 2 clips that hold it in place. So it's just the clips, those 2 clips, and that cargo hold down buckle. That's the only thing that holds the panel in place. The rest is just basically tension from the plastic and the weather stripping. Get the panel in, fish it underneath the seat belts. And you want to get the panel kind of under the back seat. Then once you get it around the back seat, what you want to do is you want to slide this underneath this other sill over here. So in other words, this little protective sill piece, you want to slide that underneath it. Make sure these little tabs get pushed back inside the little slots underneath this molding. This little piece stays out like this over here. That's how that goes, okay? Now you got to kind of put this all underneath the weather stripping and fish it all the way through underneath the weather stripping. And the last thing securing both rear panels is the cargo net hold down buckles. They just go back in with that number 25 Torx bit. Get them started over here. Okay, it looks like it went really well. It's kind of late. I had to use the lights and stuff at night. I got this camera up on super bright focus for nighttime viewing. Anyway, I'm gonna go take this car out for a ride. See you next time. Thanks for watching.